What's the worst thing your toxic boss could say? Well, I asked you on my community tab a few weeks ago and you guys showed up with some toxic boss quotes. And so today what I want to do is I want to go through some of the worst toxic boss quotes that I pulled out of that thread. I will link it down below as well if you want to take a scroll through, feed that llama for the drama of toxic bosses. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the quote. I'm going to tell you my reaction. And just like with toxic job story time, do know that this is just my opinion. I don't know the full situation. So this is really just for fun, spilling some tea. And I'll also give suggestions in terms of what you could potentially say in response in situations where it would be potentially appropriate. But first, hello, my friends, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Jennifer, and I'm your new career bestie. Around here, we talk about toxic workplaces, career success strategy, personal branding on LinkedIn, all sorts of fun stuff. So if you're like, yes, I need more of that in my life, feel free to tap the subscription button and the notification bell. It's fun and it's free. Also, if this isn't enough for you, I also hang out pretty much every day on LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. So if you want to be my career bestie in any of those places or all of those places, I will leave the links in the description bar down below. All right, enough of that. Let's see what your toxic bosses had to say. I saw you miss this item. That's a really basic thing to miss. The shame is just dripping off of this quote. And here's why I think that this toxic boss quote is so bad, is that this is actually like shame is based on fear. Like you're afraid now that you're going to be judged. You're afraid about your job. You're afraid of all of these things. And like, I don't think that ruling through fear is an effective leadership strategy. In fact, it's not leadership at all. It's just fear-based motivation, which is cheap and easy, my friends, cheap and easy. Also, is it a basic thing? Is it easy? And maybe you were busy, maybe we are humans doing human stuff. We make mistakes, we're not perfect. And it sucks, and sometimes the mistakes are kind of big, and that is particularly lame when it happens. But we all need to have space for failure, because failure is where we actually learn. For example, in the situation when you miss this item, you're probably not going to miss it again, and you probably wouldn't miss it again even without the healthy dose of shame that your boss handed you with this statement. In my opinion, as a leader, people are much more effective when they are empowered, when they're confident, and when they have space to actually learn things. And sometimes I feel like the best way to learn is by messing things up really, really badly sometimes. And a final thought on this one. Your boss said it's a basic thing, but maybe it wasn't a basic thing to you. And I'm not talking you specifically. Now we're talking generalities because this one came up a few times. The thing is, if it's a basic thing and it's been missed, what's the reason for that? Is the reason that your manager has not properly trained you in how to do your job? So while they're pointing the finger at you, maybe they need to be, pointing the finger at themselves just a little bit there. Next up, Lucy works so hard, she even works through unpaid lunches. Proceeds to stare at me expectantly that I also work during lunch to keep things moving and not eat on my own free time or get paid for it. Okay, you guys. So if you watched my last video, I had a whole rant about vacation and how it's necessary. Lunch is even more necessary. You need to have a break in your day. It's very important in terms of focus, in terms of attention. And I don't care what your job is. Those are things that you need in order to do your job well, and in many cases, to do your job safely. Now, Lucy, she's a real go-getter that she does her job for free. Good for her. Maybe that's going to help advance her in her career. It's definitely, in my opinion, a little bit of brown nosiness, but maybe she's just bored and doesn't like sitting. There's different reasons why maybe someone doesn't want to take their break and eat food. I don't know what's going on with her life. So that's all speculation. However, the fact that Lucy has decided not to take her unpaid lunch does not mean that everyone should not be taking their unpaid lunch. I would actually almost understand this more if lunchtime was paid and maybe it was really busy, needing to jump in. Sometimes things happen. I get it. It happened to me. When I worked in retail, my lunch was thankfully paid because it was legally required to be. But when you're not being paid, you don't owe them your time or your labor when they're not paying you for it. That's volunteering. That's not employment. So if they want to have a volunteer operation, maybe they need to change their business approach. Okay, I can rant on that one. I did rant in that other video, so I will link that so that you can check it out. if you haven't already. Now, in this situation, while you're taking your unpaid break, if it's legally required, I would actually bring that up. I would just be like, I'm taking my break. Law says that I should. And I'm doing this because I want to be more effective. I want to be more productive. I want to be more focused when I'm on shift and you're paying me. Not quite exactly like that, but something along those ways, but like in the nice corporate-y kind of speak so that they feel good about it. But I would make sure in what you say in response to make sure that you're highlighting that the break is necessary, not just because of the law, but because it's going to allow you to do better work when you're back on the clock. All right, let's see what else we have in store here. I yelled at you so that you're clear that I'm angry. I don't want to leave you wondering. Well, I'll at least give them a mark for clear communication because they clearly articulated that they're a jerk and that they want you to know that they're a jerk. So that's cool. Good for them. I think yelling is never okay. I know some people don't mind yelling. I know some people kind of like the drama and stuff like that. I've worked with people who enjoy yelling at each other. To me, it's a very weird thing. But from my conversations, I think most people don't want to be yelled at. And I also think that you can express and communicate anger, displeasure, upset, disappointment without yelling at someone. Just because you're saying something really loudly doesn't mean that you're actually effectively communicating. In fact, when you're yelling at someone, you're triggering their defenses, and that's not actually going to be very conducive there. In this case, what I would do, so back it up one step here. So the thing that we do need to bear in mind when we're dealing with like the yelly, angry, emotional person, because that's what they are. They're very triggered when they're yelling, is that they're going to be very easy to set off a bit more. So sometimes it's just listen, and that's how you de-escalate. But for me, depending on the person, I may potentially ask them if it's necessary. Because I do think that we need to hold people to account and maybe not do it at the time, because when they're yelling and they're mad and they're so angry that they need you to know by being a child and throwing a toddler tantrum, talking to them later and saying, I felt very disrespected. It made it more difficult for me to accept the feedback because of the way that you delivered it. And it would mean a lot more for me if you did this. Can we just start being nice to each other? Is being kind hard? Is being nice to people really that hard? I personally think it's harder to yell at people because it hurts my voice. I don't like talking loud. I get really upset when I yell. You get the bulgy veins and it's not pretty. It's not cute and it's not comfortable for anyone involved. So can we all agree? Just type in the chat, I agree, if you think that this is a thing that we should get going on. Okay, this is actually multiple quotes and it's gonna be a little bit of a rant for me, so buckle up for this one. I could do your work with my eyes closed. Do you really think you could work, have children, and get a degree at the same time? I don't think you'd be able to get through the application, let alone the exam. You need to learn how to get along with men. You need to stop talking to the men so much. Now, there's a lot to unpack here. So first of all, I can do this work with your eyes closed, demeaning, toxic AF, no questions asked there, completely uncalled for and unnecessary. However, in the next one, they're also asking, do you really think you could work, have children, and get a degree at the same time? Well, they think your job is so easy that why would they think it would be complicated to do all three of those things at once? Answer me that, my friends. Answer me that riddle. But it brings me to a bigger rant, because I have worked with several men who have had multiple children, full-time, senior and executive level jobs, and have been pursuing executive MBAs at the same time. And no one has questioned them about it. However, a woman so much has the audacity to have a job and a child, and they've got questions they need you to answer about that. And for everyone, I really want you, if you're thinking about asking someone that question, can you have a job and a child? Can you have a job, a child, and go to school? Are you asking them, if you're asking a woman, genuinely ask yourself if you would ask that question to a man as well, because Men don't get that question. No one has asked my husband why he still works since we've had kids, but I get the question pretty often. The whole self-doubt about your potential and your capabilities, again, just gross. I feel like as this is moving along, it's just very steeped in misogyny, which I know is going to make some of the men watching this video very upset, but I call it like I see it. You don't have to agree with me, but this is straight up misogyny and it's disgusting. Which brings us to the last two of you need to learn how to get along with men, and also you need to stop talking to the men, because men have complexes with women at work. It's very weird, and I know that maybe they just want to go back to the 1960s where they're all chads and they can chat out. But you know what? There's many men who watch this channel, and there's many men who don't subscribe to Chadhood either, and there's many men that are as alienated by the Chads as women are. So I want to shout out to them, but also don't be one of those dudes if you're watching. Please, please, please. Anyway, I can rant on that one all day because, like, I don't know. I think I need to leave that one because I'm just going to get really mad. You don't work hard enough. What does working hard mean? Because here's the thing, and again, I brought this up in my last video. So again, if you haven't watched it, I'm shamelessly plugging, because a lot of the toxic work culture things, I really tear down in that video. But for the purpose of this commentary, so often what working hard really means is working a lot of hours. However, are those hours always actually working, or are they performative? I know in many industries that require 60 to 80 hours a week from the people, especially in junior level roles, where the hours are performative. It's like you're in the office 80 hours a week, but you're watching YouTube. Maybe that's what's going on right now. I'm not going to tell anyone. Now, ultimately, is the value of the work or the quality of the work going to be any different if someone takes 12 hours to do that work, or if they do it super efficiently in the span of 3 to 4 or 8 hours, or however long it takes? And the answer is, like, if the actual result is the same, it actually shouldn't matter. So this is where, like, I hate the clock watching thing. I hate the demand for more hours. I hate everything about hustle culture, because actually hustle culture just makes you less productive. Again, I break it down in that other video, but this is just something that we don't need to work harder. I mean, maybe some people need to work harder. I have a video about lazy coworkers. We've talked about lazy bosses before. Some people do need to do more work, but I think that what we need to define in terms of working hard is in measurement of output and how much is done, how much is accomplished, how much progress is made, versus how long it takes you to do it. Are you gonna cry about it? I mean, yeah, maybe I will. Why have we been socialized to not cry? This is a genuine question I have. Crying is actually very productive. It releases a lot of toxins from your system. Tears, they're therapy, my friends, they are therapy. From an early age, we are taught not to cry, especially men. And so there is a whole stigma about crying at work. And if you cry at work, it's not a good thing. You're supposed to be professional. Professional people don't cry. However, at work, we have emotions. And why is yelling okay, but crying isn't? Like, I genuinely want to know how we have accepted yelling, but not crying. And let's face it, tears happen for all people at work. Now, for men, they might not be as harmful to your professional brand because you can play it off as being really passionate. And like men who cry out of passion, like they don't actually have negative effects in terms of their professional perception. There's actual research behind this, but women in general do. So you can still try to play it off that you're just very passionate about this thing, but if you cry, you're still seen as like a weak crybaby who doesn't belong in the corporate Americas or whatever. But really, I think that we just need to embrace tears. I think crying is fine. I know that other people maybe aren't so comfortable with it, but like, it happens, and let's just not judge it. And we definitely shouldn't be shaming people if they do cry, because they're expressing an emotion and feelings are for feeling. So how would I respond? I would probably cry. Just kidding. When I get really mad, I cry. But when I get really upset, I just shut down. I was told by my GM, you shouldn't question your upper management peers. They are assistant managers for a reason. Well, is the reason that they have all of the answers, all of the information, and never make a mistake? I think the answer is no. Now, again, shamelessly plugging my last video, we also talked about top-down leadership and how flawed that is. I personally think that good leadership means that you are seeking information, you are seeking feedback, and you are seeking collaboration from people with expertise, and that includes people who report up to you, whether it's a direct report or maybe even if it's people below you. Like, you don't know all of the things. You don't always have all of the information. So you should be able to question. And I think that strong teams, you have that openness where if you have questions, if you have concerns, because maybe if there is a good reason for it, they can just simply explain that to you instead of being like, oh, just respect my authority and have you like mindlessly be obedient. Like, do they want obedience or do they want good work? That's my question for your GM. Not saying that you should ask that specifically, but I do think though that it is fair in situations like this to ask for clarity of if I have a question, if I have a concern, if there's something that I know might be an issue, do you want me to bring that to your attention? Or should I just listen to leadership? Would you like that brought to your attention? Put the ball in their court because they might say, no, I don't want to be questioned at all. And that's fair. And then you know not to question, and you know to make decisions about your career based on that fact. But maybe the answer is yes, and it actually forces them to reevaluate the situation and know that you were really just trying to do the right thing. Because I think when you were questioning it, it's because you wanted the best possible outcome, you want to add value, and you want things to go well for the company. Obviously, good intentions, right? All right, what else do we have here? I find that people who are here just for the paycheck don't tend to last that long. Sir, I assume you're a sir. Your name is probably Chad or Brad or something like that. If I'm not here to get paid, why am I here? Can we all agree that we don't need to pretend that we do our jobs from the goodness of our hearts? If we were doing our jobs for the goodness of our hearts and money wasn't a factor, we would be volunteering. We would not be working for a paycheck, right? Like, this doesn't make sense to me. And I know that people get very offended that other people work for money, including people who work for them. I know people get offended that I work for money too. Like, it's a whole thing. But of course, everyone is there for the paycheck. 100% of the staff is there to get paid. In fact, if you stop paying them, they're not going to work for you anymore. They're going to go somewhere else because unless you're independently wealthy, you need to get paid. Now, I suspect Sir here doesn't have to worry about money, and maybe he's never been in the situation. Maybe mommy and daddy handed him a trust fund or an Ivy League education that swung doors open. Maybe they even handed him this company. It completely lacks empathy to what the reality is for most people. Like, sure, maybe he's choosing to be there. It's his vision. It's his company. Other people are we choose to work where we work, fair, but we do it for a paycheck. So to say like, oh yeah, like if you're just here for the paycheck, like, I don't know why. I don't know what else we're doing here. Like, but I've seen this before, especially with like founders and entrepreneurs where they think like people just want to like work for their company because their vision is so good and they're so awesome. And it's like, no, like, yes, I hope so. And I hope that your job is one that you believe in the vision of the company and you're excited about it and that you like doing the work that you do. Like, I want you to have all of those things in your career. I think that they're important for most people in their career. I don't think that it's a bad thing though for you to do those things with the expectation and showing up every day to get a paycheck. Okay, I can rant on that one for a while, so let's go into the next one. I want to date you. Okay, I have to admit, I saw this one like in the YouTube Studio app for like YouTube creators, and I was like, oh, it's just like another dude. I'm just gonna blog. And then I was like, oh no, I should not be offended because your boss said that to you and you are the offended one. So first of all, my apologies for misreading that. And OMG, that is not okay. So if you guys have been hanging out here for a really long time, I do have a video about dating coworkers. And if you have watched it, I don't always think it's a terrible idea. Sometimes it is, but not always. And if if you do want to dig into that, I'll link the video as well. But when it comes to management and employees, that is always a bad idea because there is a power balance at play. So they have authority over your performance review, your promotions, your pay, whether or not you have a job. So it's just a bad situation, and they absolutely should not be approaching you in any sort of way, in my opinion, in terms of a romantical relationship, if you will. Also, most companies have a pretty strict policy against this because this really quickly, like, again, I'm not a legal expert or anything like that, but it just screams like sexual harassment complaints and lawsuits to me. So it should generally be avoided. So if you are a manager watching this, please don't try to date your team. Much appreciated. And if your manager says this to you, say no and check your company policy. And this is actually one of the things that you need to make sure you document and potentially bring to HR. And the last one, because this video is getting very long and I know some of you want me to keep it under 30 minutes, so I'm going to do my best here. And it's not just them saying that. This is something that I've actually, I've heard this out in toxic work environments, and especially with like the malicious office gossip kind of dealio before. And there's a reason why your toxic boss is saying this. And the reason why this toxic boss quote is one that I have heard so often is because when one person has an opinion, your perception is going to be like, oh, like they have this opinion, I should consider it. But this is actually when they're saying multiple people are saying this, and multiple people think you're not competent, people think you messed up, multiple people think you're not good at your job, whatever it is that they were telling you. What they're doing is it's actually social proof. It's a method of influence. And what they are doing is they are manipulating you to make you question yourself. And this also has a byproduct of creating distrust so that it actually segments coworkers, which is good staging for a toxic boss in terms of abuse, because you're not going to all band together to report their assholery if you don't trust each other in the first place, right? So that's generally going to be kind of the reason why, whether they know that's why they're doing it or whether they don't know why that's doing it. That is the purpose of them saying oh yeah, all of these people are saying this about you. It's so that you believe the thing that they're saying. Now, is it true? Is it not? I don't know. That depends on the situation. Maybe it is. However, in my opinion, other people's opinions don't really matter. If your boss has an issue, they should just own the fact that they have an issue. Or if someone had something brought to the attention, then, say that. But we don't need to start ganging up. Okay, I don't know where that cut off, but my battery just died. So I guess that means that we could probably wrap it up. So I want to hear two things from you guys. So first of all, kudos to those of you who have made it this long in the video. I know it was a long one. First of all, what's the worst toxic boss quote that you have heard? Drop it into the comments down below. Second, should we make this one into a series as well? I'm kind of really digging the toxic job stories, and maybe as I'm reading this, maybe we can combine them. Maybe it can be segments. So I'd really love to hear what you would like to watch, and we can play around with it, figure it out, the good stuff. Now, if your drama llama is still a little bit hungry, still needs a little snack, you can go and watch my latest toxic job story time video. I will link it right here on the screen if you want to hear more about toxic bosses and toxic workplaces and whatnot. But before you go, if you enjoyed this video, if it was entertaining, if it made you laugh a little bit, gave you some insights, give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.